There are forces in America more powerful than presidents, courts, or elections. They operate in the shadows, leaving no fingerprints, only funerals and unanswered questions. Journalists, whistleblowers, politicians, scientists, all dead at the wrong time, in the wrong way. Every case ruled an accident. Every doubt dismissed as conspiracy. But what if the truth is darker? The deep state doesn't just silence its enemies, it eliminates them. Chapter 1. The Journalists Who Got Too Close. Los Angeles, 4:19 a.m., and a silver Mercedes fishtails across Melrose Avenue, sparks flying as the undercarriage scrapes asphalt, before a sudden flash engulfs the street. The explosion sends the engine 50 meters away, landing beside a bus stop bench as firefighters rush toward the burning frame. Amid the chaos, one firefighter lifts a half-melted laptop, handing it to a man in plain clothes who pockets it without identifying himself. No one questions him, though he appeared before the coroner, and that anomaly becomes the night's first unanswered question. Something inside that laptop mattered to someone. Investigators later learn that Michael Hastings tried to borrow a neighbor's car the night before the crash, a detail that unsettles those who understand how easily vehicles can be accessed remotely. His urgency, mixed with his fear, now plays like a final warning embedded in the wreckage he left behind. Hastings had been investigating CIA Director John Brennan, a man known for secrecy and conflicts with reporters. Hours before the crash, Hastings sent emails claiming he was under surveillance and needed to go off the radar for a bit. His tone was tense, not irrational, and colleagues took his fears seriously. When the car crashed, details did not align with typical high-speed accidents. The engine flew farther than physics suggested possible without external interference, and the missing laptop raised more questions than the crash answered. An unmarked SUV was seen leaving the scene minutes after the fire was contained. 2 decades earlier, Danny Casolaro followed what he called the Octopus, a network connecting intelligence agencies, contractors, and covert programs. Friends said he believed he was close to a breakthrough when he checked into a West Virginia hotel for final interviews. He never checked out. Casolaro was found dead in a bathtub, wrists slashed with unusual precision, the scene staged neatly around him. Police called it suicide, yet his notes were missing, his briefcase vanished, and his phone records were wiped the night before. No one explained who entered his room late that evening. His family insisted he was not suicidal. He had promised a major revelation. Colleagues later discovered he had been reaching out to sources tied to a specific military contractor, a name scribbled on a note hours before his death. That name would appear again in another journalist's investigation. In Oakland, 2007, Chauncey Bailey walked toward work, carrying a folder of notes for an exposé on corruption, linking officials and law enforcement. It was a route he took every morning. Halfway down the block, a masked gunman approached and fired 3 shots before fleeing. Witnesses described the shooting as quick and professional, and while a man was convicted, inconsistencies plagued the case. Ballistics were conflicting, response times odd, and Bailey's office was searched after his death. Documents he kept were never found again. Some officers believed there was more to the story. Bailey's final notes referenced a source who disappeared the week before, someone he believed possessed information capable of damaging an alliance. He told colleagues he felt watched but remained committed to publishing his findings. His last investigation, like Casolaro's, pointed toward a contractor with federal ties. Only later would a troubling pattern emerge. Both Hastings and Casolaro had contacted the same defense contractor weeks before their deaths, a company known for classified projects and connections within intelligence circles. The link was chilling, a thread running beneath 3 American tragedies that never received answers. Chapter 2. Whistleblowers, who never got to testify. Oxfordshire, England. The woods are silent when a dog walker parts thick branches and stumbles into a clearing where a man sits upright against a tree, wrists cut, pills scattered, yet the medicine bottle unopened. The scene looks staged, almost frozen in time, and the man's identity is confirmed instantly as Dr. David Kelly. Before the dog walker even finishes dialing emergency services, paramedics appear at the site far faster than rural response times allow, raising the first unsettling question about who dispatched them. Officers quietly usher them away, and one investigator notes something odd in the log. The call was recorded after arrival, not before. Kelly had recently endured intense questioning over Iraq's supposed weapons of mass destruction, publicly contradicting the narrative that pushed the US and UK toward war. His calm manner at the hearing made his sudden death feel out of place. and the items found around him showed no clear signs of struggle or despair. When the knife used was tested, no fingerprints appeared on it, not even Kelly's, an anomaly dismissed as contamination despite the dry weather. His dental records, crucial for confirming timelines and health details, were temporarily reported as misplaced, then quietly restored without explanation, deepening suspicions further. The government sealed key files for 70 years, a move normally reserved for national security secrets, not the death of a civilian scientist. Colleagues who spoke with him days earlier insisted he sounded steady and future-focused, not like someone preparing to end his life in a lonely forest. 17 years later, across the Atlantic, DHS whistleblower Philip Haney was found dead near his truck with a single gunshot wound. A firearm lay beside him, in a position inconsistent with typical self-inflicted shootings, prompting investigators to rethink the initial conclusion. Reporters learned that Haney kept a thumb drive detailing intelligence failures involving terror tracking programs, and friends claimed he feared retaliation. The local sheriff first hinted at homicide, then reversed course, and finally the case was sealed without clarity, leaving a vacuum filled with unanswered doubts. Haney had complained that political pressure pushed authorities to shut down databases he believed were essential for identifying extremist networks. His notes suggested he intended to testify again, and associates claimed he was preparing documents the week he died, raising questions about the timing. In 2010, former Pentagon advisor John P. Wheeler III was captured on security cameras wandering Wilmington, Delaware, disoriented and clearly in distress. He looked like a man both fleeing and searching, glancing over his shoulder as though someone trailed him through the night. His body later appeared in a landfill, deposited by a garbage truck, whose route traced back to multiple dumpsters near the city center. Wheeler's townhouse had been ransacked, yet valuables were untouched, pointing investigators toward motives beyond robbery or random violence. Footage of Wheeler showed him clutching documents under his coat, and witnesses reported he appeared frightened rather than intoxicated. He had ties to sensitive defense programs, and the abrupt end to his life raised questions about what he carried and who wanted it silenced. Only when examining the three cases together does a pattern begin to emerge, because Kelly, Haney, and Wheeler all handled intelligence that challenged official narratives, and their deaths, though separated by years and continents, share threads of secrecy, contradiction, and an urgency someone seemed determined to bury. Such overlap suggests the possibility that these events were not isolated tragedies, but connected signals of deeper institutional forces. Chapter 3. Politicians who died in perfect weather. Minnesota's cold morning offers perfect flying conditions as a twin-engine King Air eases toward Eveleth Airport, its wings steady in clear air. Then, without warning, the aircraft rolls sharply, drops violently, and slams into the ground. The fireball settles fast, leaving silence around Senator Paul Wellstone's remains. Even before local responders mobilize, an FBI team is already en route, raising the first disturbing question about why federal agents moved so quickly when casualties had not been confirmed. Their presence feels rehearsed, as if someone anticipated the crash long before the control tower issued its alarm. 2 witnesses later claim they heard sudden engine surges minutes before impact, a detail missing from the final flight data. Their accounts dismissed echo the strange silence that followed the crash, as though essential pieces of the story vanished before investigators arrived. Paul Wellstone had become one of Washington's loudest critics of expanding military power, opposing the Iraq invasion and questioning covert operations that bypassed traditional oversight. His views earned admiration from constituents but hostility from influential circles whose strategies depended on silence, secrecy, and compliance imposed by intelligence agencies. Decades earlier, another lawmaker collided with mystery in the skies. Congressman Hale Boggs boarded a small plane in Alaska that vanished without a trace, leaving no wreckage, no bodies, and no flight debris. His disappearance fueled suspicion because Boggs had openly criticized the FBI's secrecy and investigative practices. Search teams combed frozen terrain for weeks before the effort was abruptly halted, prompting relatives to question why authorities stopped despite new leads. Years later, documents tied to Boggs' case went missing from federal archives, reinforcing doubts about whether his disappearance resulted from chance, mechanical failure, or orchestrated. Senator John Tower faced his fate in Texas after years of challenging intelligence operations following the Iran-Contra scandal. Tower's commuter plane crashed during clear weather, and while investigators claimed pilot error, numerous locals recalled hearing an explosion before impact, a detail the official report did not record clearly. Tower's critics believed his deep knowledge of covert dealings, including connections between agencies and foreign partners, placed him at risk once he began speaking more openly. His final interviews hinted at tensions, and his sudden death reinforced fears that defying intelligence structures could carry consequences beyond political isolation. Across all three cases, the weather had presented no hazards. The pilots were experienced, and the routes routine, eliminating many explanations typically offered after aviation disasters. What remained were unanswered questions about timing, access, and whether someone with knowledge of their movements anticipated when flights would be vulnerable. Wellstone had criticized covert activities tied to wartime planning. Boggs had confronted the FBI over its investigative conduct, and Tower had pressed for accountability after Iran-Contra fallout. Each man represented a challenge to secrecy, a voice drawing scrutiny toward institutions accustomed to operating without public oversight or interference. In the aftermath of each incident, reports surfaced briefly before fading into bureaucratic obscurity, leaving families grasping for explanations that never came. The absence of clear mechanical failures, combined with unexplained behaviors by federal authorities, pushed many to question whether coincidence alone could account for losses politically inconvenient. Taken together, the deaths of Wellstone, Boggs, and Tower form a troubling constellation, each loss emerging after confrontations with powerful institutions guarding classified operations. Their perfectly timed tragedies, framed as accidents, left behind unresolved questions, suggesting that challenging intelligence overreach may place public servants in unseen danger. Chapter 4. Suicides that don't seem like suicides. In Washington, D.C., a security guard steps into the Navy Admiral's garden and freezes at the sight of a body lying face-up on the grass, a pistol resting several inches from the hand. There is no chest spatter, no signs matching a typical self-inflicted gunshot wound. It is Admiral Jeremy Boorda, Chief of Naval Operations, a figure known for clashing with entrenched military authorities. Within minutes, officers move through the yard as though expecting the scene. Reporters en route for an interview later question why they were summoned before anyone confirmed his death. Two officers who arrived soon after claim they heard 2 shots echo across the property, a detail missing from the official timeline. The discrepancy becomes the morning's first curiosity, drawing attention to a death meant to appear straightforward yet burdened by details that refuse to align with the reports. Boorda had been preparing to meet a journalist regarding questions about military commendations and broader Pentagon ethics, a conversation expected to challenge influential circles. Friends insisted he sounded calm, not distressed. The sudden end to his life left fissures in a narrative presented as tragically simple. Across the globe in Singapore, American engineer Todd was found hanging in his apartment, yet from the first moments family members suspected staging. The apartment had been cleaned well, and his electronics displayed signs of tampering. Missing files suggested the possibility of targeted extraction rather than despair. Todd had worked with advanced surveillance technologies involving sensitive collaborations, and colleagues hinted at pressures he faced near the end. He voiced fear that a project he was involved in carried risks far beyond technical concerns. His death, framed as suicide, intensified questions surrounding the research left incomplete. In Pennsylvania, federal prosecutor Jonathan Luna left his office late at night, carrying case files tied to investigations. Hours later, his body was discovered in shallow water, stabbed 36 times, with conflicting signs indicating he may have been ambushed. Despite the violence, authorities leaned toward suicide or accident. Key evidence disappeared, including toll records and portions of Luna's route, leaving investigators to speculate without solid answers. His wallet remained untouched, and the position of his car suggested he attempted to flee. Those close to him rejected official explanations, insisting his duties placed him in potential danger. The 3 deaths share an eerie sense of orchestration, their scenes containing contradictions too sharp to ignore. Each man held roles granting access to sensitive information, whether military misconduct, surveillance technology, or federal investigations. Their unexpected demises formed fractures in narratives crafted to neutralize suspicion quickly. Boorda challenged internal military hierarchies. Todd handled research valuable to powerful contractors, and Luna pursued cases capable of unsettling networks of influence. Their fates, framed as self-inflicted or accidental, carried irregularities suggesting other hands may have shaped the outcomes. The timing in each case magnified unresolved tensions. Investigators struggled to reconcile medical findings, missing objects, contradictory statements, and abrupt shifts between homicide and suicide rulings. In each instance, pieces that should have clarified events instead muddied them. as though critical answers remained just out of reach. Public scrutiny faded while essential discrepancies lingered quietly. Their deaths reveal patterns that resist simple explanation, each tied to sensitive domains often shielded from public view. Their stories, officially resolved yet substantively unsettled, suggest the unsettling possibility that some suicides bear signatures of intervention, leaving questions destined to persist indefinitely for many more years to come. Chapter 5: The Scientists Who Knew Too Much. Memphis greets the night with still water and thin fog when a rental car is found idling on a bridge, its driver's door wide open, wallet, glasses and keys placed with deliberate care on the seat. But Dr. Don Wiley, one of the nation's most respected biologists, is nowhere in sight. Police arrive quickly, baffled by a scene that feels arranged rather than accidental, and as they inspect the vehicle, someone notes how intact and orderly everything looks, as if Wiley stepped out intentionally, then vanished. Days later, his body is discovered miles downstream, sparking more questions than answers. 2 FBI agents had been in Memphis the night before, interviewing several of his colleagues for reasons never publicly detailed, and their unexpected presence becomes suspicious. Whatever they sought, they left no record behind, and soon after, a veil of official silence descends. Even more troubling is the disappearance of Wiley's security badge from his lab hours before he died, a second curiosity that unsettles those who knew him. The badge's absence hints at unauthorized access, a breach inside facilities tied to biodefense work that demanded the highest security clearances. Wiley was more than a professor. He stood at the forefront of immunology and viral research, contributing breakthroughs that placed him in proximity to high-level discussions about national biodefense. Authorities ruled his death an accidental fall from the bridge, yet the neat arrangement of his belongings conflicted sharply with the suggestion of instability. Years later, during the fallout of the anthrax attacks, Dr. Bruce Ivins found himself under scrutiny for alleged involvement. Ivins, a senior researcher at USAMREED, died from an overdose days before he was scheduled to face trial, ensuring no cross-examination or public testimony about his work or the investigation. Forensic inconsistencies, combined with colleagues' doubts about his guilt, fueled speculation that someone preferred his silence. Files connected to his case remained sealed, and several details that might have contextualized his death were withheld, leaving the public with fragments of a narrative lacking meaningful resolution. Not far from this world of virology and weapons-grade microbes, Dr. Benito K., a Miami-based cancer researcher, was found beaten outside his laboratory in 2001. Initial reports suggested homicide, but the ruling was later altered quietly, shifting from assault to an unrelated medical condition. Questban's work intersected with government-funded projects, creating speculation about whether his research touched on areas attracting outside interest. His family questioned the abrupt change in classification and the limited transparency surrounding his final hours, amplifying doubts already growing within scientific circles. When examining Wiley, Ivins, and Cooey together, patterns start to emerge. Scientists linked to sensitive research dying under ambiguous circumstances, investigations closed hastily, and unanswered questions buried beneath official pronouncements. Each case occurred within a climate where biology and national security intertwined more tightly than ever before. The post-9/11 era saw an explosion of biodefense programs, attracting billions in federal funding and drawing the attention of intelligence agencies monitoring threats both foreign and domestic. Those working closest to the cutting edge of pathogen research carried knowledge with geopolitical implications that extended far beyond the lab. The deaths of these scientists, though separated by geography and method, reflect a convergence of secrecy, high-stakes research, and institutional opacity. Their stories linger as reminders that in a world where biology becomes a battleground, the line between accident and intervention can blur until only doubt remains. Chapter 6: Intelligence Deaths. The agencies want forgotten. Maryland's wetlands sit quiet as dawn breaks, mist rising softly over the river where a lone canoe drifts toward the bank. Inside lies a man dressed neatly, loafers still polished, as if he never expected to end his morning in the water. The body belongs to former CIA Director William Colby. Authorities move quickly to label the case an accidental drowning. Yet questions emerge immediately when agents discover Colby's files left open on his desk. A strange detail for a man known for strict organization. 2 neighbors later report hearing a loud thud on the night Colby vanished, a sound inconsistent with a gentle canoe launch, and this second curiosity sinks deeper into the puzzle. Their accounts do not align with the official narrative, but the discrepancy fades quietly from the final reports. Colby had become a reformist voice inside the intelligence world, pushing for transparency about covert operations, including programs that haunted the CIA for decades. His unexpected death arrives at a moment when he seemed prepared to reveal more about past abuses, including practices many hoped would remain buried. Decades earlier, another figure linked to covert research, Army biochemist Frank Olson, fell from a 13th floor window in New York after being secretly dosed with LSD by CIA colleagues. His death, long ruled suicide, sparked decades of disputes over whether he willingly jumped or was thrown. Olson had expressed deep distress over classified weapons experiments, telling friends he wanted to resign. His family fought for years to uncover the truth, and when his body was exhumed in the 1990s, forensic experts found injuries more consistent with assault than a voluntary fall. The Olson case exposed the dark outline of MK-Ultra, a program rooted in mind control experiments and chemical manipulation. His death became a symbol of the lengths to which agencies might go to contain secrets, especially when insiders attempted to distance themselves from dangerous research. Half a century later, another cluster of mysterious deaths emerged, this time among scientists connected to biodefense research during the early 2000s anthrax investigations. Between 2001 and 2004, several scientists died in accidents, unexplained suicides, or abrupt medical events. One researcher perished in a rare lab exposure incident, another died in a sudden car crash. A third reportedly took his own life after expressing fear that he was being followed. Official explanations varied, yet the timing created unease within scientific communities already strained by high-level scrutiny. Media outlets rarely linked these cases, treating each as isolated tragedy. But those who worked in biodefense labs noted the unsettling frequency of deaths among colleagues handling sensitive data. Many believed the investigations into the anthrax attacks placed intense pressure on researchers with access to dangerous pathogens. The common thread among these figures is their proximity to programs that blended science with national security, touching on research areas deeply embedded in intelligence agendas. Whether through chemical experiments, bioweapons analysis, or disclosures about covert activity, each individual occupied a position fraught with risk. The deep state doesn't need public trials or open threats. It works in silence, shaping outcomes before anyone notices. Those who cross its hidden boundaries often meet endings disguised as accidents, suicides, or coincidences too neat to question. And in a world ruled by secrecy, the most dangerous killers are the ones we're told never existed at all.